Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, Heck Speed. So today we're going to do a little video on custom decals, more specifically decals done by Callie Graphics. So I'm going to talk about how to order from Callie, the different types of decals she does, um, some methods you can use to order custom decals, uh, and also we're going to go over how to apply them to different types of models, different surfaces. So let's turn the camera around and get to talking. All right, so if you've ordered from Callie before, you get excited when you see this bad boy in the mail. And if you haven't ordered from Callie before, this is her website, Callie Graphics. So in this particular case, we have my VQ Bearcat. It's highly modified. It's got a different cowl. It's got a different canopy. It's got landing gear modded. It's also been stripped of its vinyl covering, and this is Ultra Coat. I actually wanted to fiberglass and paint this model, but because VQ decided to save 3 ounces and put holes all over it, I would have had to have completely resheeted the whole model, and I just wasn't interested in doing all that much work. So we have a film covered model, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Anyways, let's talk about Callie Graphics. So I've been using Callie Graphics decals, geez, I don't know, 10, 12 years, maybe 13 years. She's been around about that long, maybe slightly longer. I was introduced to her work from a friend of mine. If you're on RC groups and if you've been around a while, you've probably seen the name John Morgan a couple of times. He's the one that pointed me out to her, and yeah, so I've been going to her pretty much ever since for just about everything. These are kind of your traditional vinyl decals. This is yellow vinyl, and you can see she can do some really intricate work. I've had her do some other work for me that's very intricate and comes out amazing. So there's almost nothing too small for her to do. Nothing too big almost either. I've even had her do some work for my actual cars before. So she does all kinds of things custom. Now, if you go to her website, she has a very easy to use website that will show you multiple options for different paint schemes with different airplanes. So let's say you've got a P-47. You go to Warbirds, you select P-47, and there's like 3 or 4 pages worth of all kinds of really cool decals, different paint schemes. So quite a few of my models have been done by her. Just to go over a few, this is my F20. These are all done by her. You can see how small some of this print is. This is actually printed on clear vinyl, so she does that as well. I've done a couple of models with nomenclature where it's really small, and she'll print it on clear vinyl, and then you'll put that on the model. The rest of these are just cut from black. These ones are printed. My A4 Skyhawk, also, you can see just how detailed she can get. And the T38 also has been done by Callie. Lots of different stuff. So is my Corsair. That's a pretty simple one. But Callie does custom decals too. So if you don't see something on our website, what you can do is, and what I've done in the past is either, like in the case of this Bearcat, she didn't have this file on her website, so I sent her a image from the internet that basically had a model sheet for like a plastic model. So you can find stuff online, pictures. You could even just use pictures of the real airplane, and I'll go over some of that in just a little bit. But you can also order a decal set for a plastic model, and you can send this to her and she can scan it. You can tell her what parts you want, what you don't want, and tell her how big, what scale your model is, and then she can go from there. And like I said, in the case of the Bearcat, I actually just found a number of pictures online and sent them to her. And I've heard of a few guys, and not very many people, but a few people have complained that, oh, it took her 3 times to get the right size for me, and I didn't have a good experience. And I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to be blunt. If you didn't get the right size from her, it's because you didn't tell her what size you really wanted. You have to be specific. In the case of these decals because I didn't have an actual decal sheet to send her. I said, hey, I need this name, 3/10 of an inch tall. Whatever the length works out to, that's what it works out to. And these, I need those 4/10 of an inch tall. If you're specific with your needs, she will meet them every time. So one thing, like for instance, the decals on this A4, she didn't have this decal set before my friend Chris and I went to her to have these made. So what did I do, and what should you have to do to get the right size decals if it's something she doesn't already have? So it's this thing called research. You go online or you look through books and you look at lots of pictures of the airplane. For instance, stars and bars. So the stars and bars that come with this kit stock are too small. If you look at pictures, you can pick out things. Okay, I need a star and bar that goes from just behind the wing to just past this panel line. You measure that. You say, Callie, I need a star and bar that's 7 inches from side to side, and she will take care of the rest. On the T-38, I need a U.S. Air Force that's 24 inches long. If you send her pictures with dimensions, she's pretty much going to nail it right on the first time. Another thing that I also will have her do from time to time, if it's something custom, in the case of this Bearcat, is I will say, hey, Callie, can you please send me a printable version of these decals so I can print them out on just regular paper and check the size on the plane before you cut them? And she totally obliges. She'll send me a printable file. I'll print them out, put them on the airplane, make sure they're the right size. Sometimes they're not, and I'll say, hey, Callie, I'll take some measurements. This takes work, people. She can't just create things out of thin air. So if you take measurements and you decide, okay, it's going to be, the U.S. Navy for the side is going to be too long the way it is. So I took measurements. Can you reduce it by 10%? Or can you reduce it by 1/2 inch in width? If you actually put in just a little bit of effort, I promise you, you will not be disappointed in her work. So that's how you order from her website. It's very simple to use. And if you haven't been to her website, or if you haven't ordered from her before, her prices literally could not be beat. A full set of custom decals shipped to my door for $32. No one else is going to do that. So we love her very much for all her hard work and all of her efforts. I know she is slammed with orders right now. I waited almost 2 months for these, and that's not to say anything against her. She's just that busy, and she's working as hard as she can. So huge props to her for putting in all that work and effort it takes to keep up with super picky modelers. So that's how you order. Be specific, provide pictures, provide dimensions, ask for a printable copy to check sizes, and you will get the right decals the first time. And she won't have to go back and remake stuff because you weren't specific enough. So everything is literally perfect. So I just opened these up today. I'm super stoked. Now we're going to put them on the plane. So if you haven't done vinyl decals before, or in some cases paint masks, I'm going to go over a few tips that you can do to make sure you're successful the first time. In this case, this is, like I said before, a film-covered model that's monocoat, ultracoat, even some of the vinyls that some of these models come printed in. Like, for instance, this Hangar 9 P47. This is a vinyl that's printed, and you can put her decals right on top of that if you wanted to. In this case, so in the case of a vinyl plane, just to go over that, you really can't do anything about wrinkles. You can kind of heat them up, but they really won't go away. But these models don't really wrinkle too bad. So the first thing to do on a film model is to make sure you don't have any wrinkles where your decals are going. This thing being dark blue wrinkles really quick in the sun. So I just went over the whole airplane and re-shrunk all the wrinkles in the areas where my decals are going. And the second thing you're going to want to do is clean. And this applies to film, paint, foam models, whatever. Make sure the model is clean. It's not dusty, doesn't have oils on it. In the case of this model, the exhaust just pumps oil all over the place. So I actually cleaned this with window cleaner first, and then I wiped it down with acetone, making sure not to go over any painted areas with it because it'll take the paint off. On a foam model, you would not want to do that. On a painted model, you would just clean it with Windex or something like that. Let it dry, make sure it's not still wet. Okay, then you can move on to applying the decals or applying paint masks. And this one, I'm going to ask you to do some more research. Don't just grab these puppies, slap them on there, okay? Spend some time to do it right, and the model will look better. Too many times I see models that guys pay money for custom decals, and they'll put the stars and bars upside down or in the wrong spot or too low or too high. And maybe some people aren't picky, but I am. So when I see stuff like that, it kind of bugs me. So spend some time, look at pictures, see where the little decals go. Don't put it in the wrong spot. Just spend a couple extra minutes and do it right. So that's one thing I'll do is I'll look at pictures before I put these on. For instance, for the U.S. Navy, I know it doesn't go up against the stab. It doesn't go up here. It doesn't go way forward. Okay, so I'm going to look at some pictures, make sure I get it in the right spot. The next thing I'm going to do is I will peel back a small corner of the backing, and I'll tear it off. So it leaves just a little bit of the sticky part to where I can get down, I can line it up, I can tack it down, or even just use masking tape to hold it in place. And then I'll pull the rest of the backing off and slowly work it down to avoid getting wrinkles into it. One thing about foam models especially is that if you've done foam repaints, even with all the effort in the world, you're still probably going to pull paint off of the model when you do decals. I know, I hate it. Foam drives me crazy. Why do I have foam models? I don't know. They're addicting for some reason. So, one of the things I do, like for instance, putting a star and bar on this model. It would come just like this with a cut out big square with a star and bar in the center. Well, if you do that and you lay the whole thing down, you take the chance in that backing paper sticking to the paint and pulling it off when you put the decal on. So what I would normally do for something like this is I would cut around the decal before I apply it to where there's minimal paper that touches the model before you while you're applying the decal. Same thing with like the Navy. It would be like a big square of paper. I'll cut it down really close and even follow like the Y just to minimize the chances of pulling paint off of the model. And that can even apply to regular painted models like say the Kafir over there where it's painted over fiberglass. If you didn't do a very good prep job on your paint, you can actually pull paint off of a regular model as well. So that's something to look out for. Let's see, what else? So do some research. Don't put them on crooked. Just for your information, the stars on the stars and bars, the top of the star always points up. Obviously this is inverted right now, but they always point up. The star is always on the left-hand wing upper and the right-hand wing lower, and the star always points forward. Just so you know. I see that too many times. It drives me crazy. Anyways, let's get these decals on, and I can show you how sweet these turned out. And we'll go from there. So some other tricks or tips that you might want to consider. In the case of like servos and stuff, this decal will basically go right over the top of that spot. So in order to place this decal without having to cut a whole bunch of it out to be in the correct spot, what I'll sometimes do is, if I can, I'll make a slight shift in the decal in order to go around that spot. So what I've done here is I've cut out this spot to kind of, it'll fit right about in here when it's all said and done. If you leave the paper on it and try and put it down, it's going to bulge over and it's going to end up causing wrinkles and stuff. So I've cut that section out so when I lay it down, I don't have to worry about it. I've also removed the two front screws for now because they'll most likely end up being the decal will end up going over the top of those. So I'll put the decal on, I'll find the holes again, and then I'll put the screws back in and paint them to match. So that's just another little trick. Kind of had to do the same thing on this decal. See, I have a hole in the cowling. This is for adjusting the carburetor. If I would have put this in the exact 100% correct spot would have been slightly farther this way, and then we ended up taking a huge chunk of the end out. I didn't want to do that. I thought shifting it slightly was a better option than missing a decal. So sometimes you have to make sacrifices or changes for the better. And this isn't a competition model, so I'm not striving for perfection. I'm going for a good looking model. Most people won't notice that the Blue Angels is just a hair too low. So sometimes you got to change things up a little bit. So that's up to you, but that's usually what I do. Okay guys, so here's the finished product. As you know, the Blue Angel scheme is very simple, so there wasn't a whole lot to put on. But Callie definitely nailed the decals. They look awesome. Very sharp. Also, one of the things that she actually really got right was the color. A lot of model companies, when it comes to Blue Angels, they just like whatever yellow, they just use it. This is a slightly darker yellow than normal, and that's correct. The Blue Angels, they call it blue and gold, but really it's more of a dark yellow. Anyways, nailed the color, nailed the sizing. Super happy with it. Can't wait to see it in the air. For whatever reason, that those two colors just really pop in the sky, and it looks awesome. So, plus it's Blue Angels, and we all know Blue Angels are better than Thunderbirds. Let's be honest with each other. So I actually chose to model this in honor of Taddeo, who was the last surviving pilot from the original Blue Angels team. There's a video, and I'll leave a description in the link, or I'll leave a link in the description of a video that shows him. They interviewed him, and they actually flew a formation of Bearcats with the Blue Angels, and they had him there to honor him. And I thought it was a really neat video, and so I thought it'd be cool to model the airplane that he flew. I had to do a little research and found out he flew number 3. So I don't know exact which tail number airplane he flew, but as far as serial number goes, but I took a guess, but it was number 3. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you found some tips useful. If you haven't used Callie before, do yourself a favor and go to her website, see what she has. I think you'll be happy with the results. I know I am. She did a killer job on this, and I cannot wait to fly it. Just like when I was a kid, I would rush through the whole build just to put the decals on. Not much has changed. So until next time, we'll see you later.